Hello and welcome to More or Less on the BBC World Service, the programme that takes a statistical scalpel to the festering wound of public debate. We recently received an email from Julia Atkins.
I belong to a wonderful choir, rock chorus in Milton, Keynes. I discovered one evening that 3 new ladies had come along from Olney, 10 miles away. They all sat next to each other. They had never met before. But most extraordinary was that they all lived in the same road. That's quite a combination of coincidences. I think you'll agree.
It's not for me to agree or disagree, Julia, it's for the numbers to tell us. So I asked Dr. Katie Chico from the Open University's Maths and Statistics Department to calculate exactly how much of a coincidence it was.
The first thing you should do is make clear the question that you're going to answer. So the question that I went about answering was, what are the chances that the 3 new members at this particular rehearsal would live on the same street? So I took a 10-mile radius around this particular choir as being a reasonable catchment area for it. Now we know what its catchment area is, I needed to find out how many streets there are in that catchment area. We want to find out whether they're on the same street or not, just how many streets could they have come from.
And how many are there?
About 5,600. If we then said these women were turning up independently from any of those streets, you'd be looking at a probability of about 1 in 31 million that you would get 3 of them living on the same street. Turning up randomly.
Pretty unlikely.
Absolutely.
But that's sort of lottery win kind of probabilities, isn't it?
It's way less likely than winning the lottery. It's 1 in 14 million to win the lottery.
So if you look at it that way, it was indeed an extraordinary coincidence. But Katie discovered that the chorus in question had been advertising in Olney. So much so, she says, it's reasonable to assume that all new members that night would have come from Olney. After that, you're no longer looking at every street in a 10-mile radius, you're looking at every street in Olney. Immediately, the coincidence looks far less impressive, and Katie whittled down the number of streets in her calculation even further by taking into account the kinds of people who join the choir. And there, you might expect there to be some clustering by demographic group.
116 streets I narrowed down to. I mean, I think actually we'd be looking at a much, much more clustered number of streets, and they were fairly conservative estimates.
Well, don't keep us in suspense. What number did you get to?
Why don't we let the choir tell us?
Given all the data we've got and assumptions we have made, the chances of this fluke occurring will sing for you today. It's about 10,000 times more likely than a lottery win, but it's not betting odds that I would like to take. It's about one, and it's the same odds. You'll be injured in the loo this year. Those are the odds.
There you have it. A 1 in 30,500 chance. About the same odds you'll be injured in the loo this year. Thanks to Katie Chico, our listener Julia Atkins, and of course to the members of the rock chorus, which is led by Lauren Field. And that's all we've got time for this week. Do keep your ideas and comments coming in via moreorless@bbc.co.uk. Our podcast is available at bbc.co.uk/moreorless. Or if you're not interested in all that fancy internet stuff, just tune in next week. Until then, goodbye.
More or less is presented by Tim Harford, the Financial Times undercover economist. Producer is Richard Knight. The editor is Richard Vader. More or less is made in association with the Open University.